What do you think are the, could be 3, could be 5, could be 10 things that all males should strive to check the boxes on in order to have a good life, not just to, be great in some particular role, but like what are the macronutrients, in your opinion, of becoming a healthy, happy, fulfilled male?
I think every person, not just every man, needs a code. And that is, you're going to be faced with hundreds of decisions each day, and you want to make, generally speaking, a higher proportion of good decisions than the peer group, right? So what helps is a code. Some people get that code from religion, the military, their really strong family connections. I actually got my first kind of code from my first job. I worked at Morgan Stanley, and there was just a certain level of professionalism. I got code from sports at UCLA. But I wonder, there's so many lost men right now, I wonder if masculinity can be a code, or some sort of aspirational form of masculinity where people born as males might have an easier time leaning in. And I should also say that I don't think masculinity or femininity are sequestered to people born as males or females. I'm drawn to men who are more feminine as friends. My close friends kind of take care of me and are more nurturing. But I think for young men, if they feel like they can lean into some positive masculine attributes, that it could serve as a code. So I loosely break it down into 3 very reductive qualities, and that is, the first is to be a provider. I'm not talking about the way the world is, but the way the world should be. I think every young man should have a plan and have an assumption that at some point he will have to be the economic lead or provider for his family. Sometimes that means getting out of the way of your partner who's better at that whole money thing. Sometimes it means providing more domestic or emotional support and labor if your partner is accelerating economically. When my partner had a kid, she was working at Goldman Sachs. She was making more money than me. I was a new academic at NYU. I was making $160,000 living in New York, which may sound like a lot of money, but it wasn't. And she was making substantially more. So I tried to pick up slack and provide more labor at home and take charge of our finances. But I think at the outset, trying to find a plan to be economically relevant in a capitalist society is really important, because whether we like to admit it or not, a male, from a self-esteem standpoint, from a sexual currency standpoint, from the esteem of the tribe or the society, is going to be disproportionately evaluated based on your economic viability. So from an early age, try and have a plan. You may not have to stick to that plan. I'm not saying you got to go to Harvard and go to work at Goldman Sachs, but maybe you're going to go to trade school, learn how to install energy efficient HVAC, but you just need a plan to be moving towards something. The second is protector. If you think about the most masculine jobs, fireman, cop, military, the notion is you develop skills and strengths such that you can protect others. And the most, if you will, manly, masculine, satisfied I ever feel is at night when I feel as if my family feels protected. The kids are asleep, my partner feels loved and supported, and I've been able to, hopefully through partnership, through economic viability, been able to provide a warm, comfortable life for them so they can focus on the things that are important to them. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of men that we should look up to, whether it's the president, I apologize for getting political, or the wealthiest man in the world, who are naturally going to be seen as male role models, they seem to have skipped the protection part. That the whole shooting match, the whole reason you make money, that's the means, but the ends is such that you can protect others. I find that's the most rewarding thing in the world. And then finally, procreator. And that is, I think we need to stop demonizing young men's desire for relationships and sexual desires. I think a young man wanting to have sex can be a tremendous motivator to be a better man. It's like fire. It can be incredibly destructive, but if you put it in a steel casing with spark plugs, it can create tremendous progress. And the story I use is that I was at the Raleigh Hotel in Miami, and I saw a very attractive woman. And it was the middle of the day, and without the benefit of alcohol, I didn't have the confidence to approach her. But I promised myself I was going to approach her, and then I went out to get my car from the valet, and was sitting there with the car, and I'm like, God, you're such a fucking wimp. So I ran back in, went up to her, and said, hi, I'm Scott, where are you from? Anyways, long story short, 18 months later, our son's middle name is born was Raleigh. And I didn't look at her, Andrew, and think I'd really like lower rates on auto insurance. I looked at her and thought I'd really like to have sex with her. And I think young men's desire for relationships and sex, if channeled correctly, makes you want to be a better man. Have a kindness practice, demonstrate excellence, shower for God's sakes, work out, have a plan, have resilience, have perseverance, demonstrate excellence. So in sum, provider, protector, procreator. Where I think I missed it in the book, and I'd love your response because I'm open to criticism here, is one, that's what worked for me. And I think a lot of younger people, there's different forms of masculinity that don't necessarily involve being economically secure or finding a mate. And also the component I've really missed is service. And I think a great kind of one question or proxy for masculinity in terms of what you do every day is, are you optimizing for attention or service, right? And then the litmus test that Richard Reeves kind of gave me, who's sort of my Yoda on this stuff, is this notion of surplus value. That some men are born males, but they die never having become men. It's not about a religious ceremony and age or some sort of experience or ritual. It's about, at some point, can you honestly look in the mirror and say, I add surplus value. I create more tax revenue and jobs than I absorb. Everyone absorbs tax revenue if you're in America. I listen to more people complain than I complain, right? I love more people than love me. And I didn't get that. I don't think I really became a man well into my 40s because I took a capitalist approach to relationships. I always wanted more. I wanted a girlfriend that was better to me than I was to her. I wanted a job where I was getting paid more maybe than I was contributing. And then what you realize as you get older is the whole shooting match is to create surplus value, be a better friend, be a better partner. There's no way my kids will ever be able to return as much as I've invested in them. I mean, we have these, the Hallmark Channel and insurance commercials will tell me that I'll have these moments, and I get those, but my kids are never up at 2 a.m. worried about me. They just aren't, right? I'm spending a ton. I always say to them, you're adding negative value. Just be clear. You go to these amazing schools, all these talented people, negative value. Me and your mom, we are constantly investing in you. This would be impossible for you to pass back. What I figured out is that's the whole shooting match. Is I'm finally, Andrew, at a place of surplus value. I apologize for the word salad. Provider, protector, procreator. Are you optimizing for service, not attention? And can you really say that you add surplus value?